My name is Lauren. It was Noah's birthday, and we were having a perfect dinner at a fancy downtown restaurant I'd been eager to try for ages. The atmosphere was intimate, with white tablecloths and soft lighting, and the city lights sparkled through the polished glass window. Noah looked relaxed and content, and I was truly happy. Halfway through our appetizers, I felt a strange shift in the air. I looked up, and there he was, my ex, Jake, standing near the entrance with a well-dressed woman on his arm. She was laughing a bit too loudly, and Jake looked tense. Our eyes met, and the recognition was instant. Noah followed my gaze. Is that? Yes, I said quietly. That's him. Without a word, Noah reached across the table and laced his fingers through mine. We continued our conversation, our meal, and our laughter. A few minutes later, Jake approached our table. Lauren, he said. Hi. I looked up slowly. Hi. His eyes darted to Noah. I didn't know you were here. It's Noah's birthday. We're celebrating, I replied. Noah stood up and offered his hand. Nice to meet you. The handshake was firm and confident. Jake nodded, clearly rethinking the situation. Well, he finally said, you look incredible. Thank you, I said, meaning nothing more. An awkward silence followed, and then he said, I should go. Yes, I agreed gently. He walked back to his table without looking back. That moment was a victory, not because of his presence but because he no longer had any power over me. It made me reflect on how far I'd come. I was raised in a small town by hard-working parents. My father was a strict man who believed in routine and stability. He worked at the local factory for over 30 years, and my mother was a homemaker. They instilled in me the values of reliability and predictability. I met Jake at a corporate event. He was charming, confident, and full of ambition. People were naturally drawn to him. I, on the other hand, was the steady one, always showing up on time and doing what was expected of me. We started dating, and after 2 years, our relationship had become a comfortable routine. People stopped asking how we met, and we fell into a pattern of doing the same things over and over again. One Tuesday night in April, we were sitting on his couch watching a reality show. I don't even remember what it was about, just that it was loud and full of drama. Jake muted the TV and turned to me. We need to talk, he said. Those 4 words were like a punch in the gut. He then told me that he didn't think our relationship was working anymore. You're a great person, he said, but you're predictable. You work a 9-to-5 job, go to the gym on the same days, wear the same clothes, and order the same food. You're safe, but safe isn't exciting. I'm 35, and I want someone extraordinary. I was in shock. I asked if there was someone else, and he quickly said no, that it was about him not wanting to settle. Then he laughed, as if he was just making a casual comment about the weather. I stood up and calmly said, You're right. I'm not your type. He told me not to be dramatic, but I replied that it was just clarity. I grabbed my jacket and walked out while he was still trying to explain himself. The drive home was eerily quiet. I didn't cry or scream, there was just a strange stillness. When I got to my apartment, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself honestly. I grabbed a notebook and wrote down all the things he said I wasn't: exciting, passionate, risk-taking, extraordinary. The next morning, I didn't wake up transformed. There was no sudden change in my appearance or confidence. But I did wake up with a resolve. I went to work as usual, answered emails, and sat through meetings. But inside, something had changed. I folded the list I'd written the night before and put it in my wallet, not as a reminder of Jake but as a record of how small I'd allowed myself to live. The first change was in my fitness routine. I'd always gone to the gym casually, but this time, I hired a trainer named Ryan. He didn't care if I was tired or if my form wasn't perfect. He just wanted me to show up 6 days a week. The first month was extremely difficult. My muscles ached, and my confidence was low. I wanted to quit so many times, but I didn't. By the third month, my body felt different, stronger and more capable. The second change was in how I presented myself. I donated half of my closet because my clothes were chosen for their safety and neutrality. I worked with a stylist for the first time. She asked me how I wanted to feel when I walked into a room, and I said confident. The woman who walked out of the fitting room still looked like me, but more put together and unapologetic. The third change was the scariest one. I'd always wanted to start my own consulting practice, but the stability of my job kept me from taking the leap. I planned and saved, and I built a client list on nights and weekends. 3 months after the breakup, I quit my job. The fear was immediate, but so was the exhilaration. I started saying yes to things I'd always postponed, like a spontaneous road trip, a language class, and even going to a climbing gym, despite my fear of heights. By September, my life was almost unrecognizable. That's when I met Noah at a networking event. I almost skipped it because I was tired, but I'm glad I didn't. He wasn't flashy or over the top. He listened to me talk about my work, my ambitions, and my failures for nearly 2 hours. He asked thoughtful questions and remembered details. When he gave me his card and said he'd like to take me to dinner if I was interested, I said yes. Our first date was easy and comfortable. For the first time in a long time, easy didn't feel like settling, it felt like a perfect fit. By October, we were officially together. In November, my business was growing steadily. I'd signed 3 long-term clients, and I was getting inquiries instead of chasing them. I hired a part-time assistant and started looking for office space. Noah fit into my life effortlessly. He supported my ambitions and celebrated my wins. One night, while we were cooking dinner, he said, "You know what I like most about you? You're brave, but you don't show off. You just live it." Before that, the past started to catch up with me. A mutual friend told me that Jake had asked about me at a bar. Another said he'd left his job and things weren't going well for him. I didn't feel anything until one Thursday afternoon when the doorman called and said there was a man asking for me. I almost said no, but my curiosity got the better of me. When I opened the door, Jake looked different, thinner and tired. He said he was wrong about me and everything. He talked about his fears and mistakes, and how he'd confused excitement with instability. He said he missed me and wanted another chance. But I was clear. I told him I was happy and that I wouldn't shrink myself again for anyone. He nodded slowly, as if he'd expected my answer. "I see you now," he said. "I know," I replied. "But you're too late." When I closed the door, my hands didn't shake. I knew I'd truly moved on. 6 months later, Noah and I were talking about moving in together. My business was thriving, and I'd booked a trip I'd only dreamed of before. I ran into Jake one last time at a coffee shop in March. He smiled politely and asked how I was. "Good," I said. "Really good," he nodded. "You were never ordinary." I smiled, not for him, but for myself. I knew that some chapters of my life were better left closed.